Imagine waking up one morning to discover that the U.S. national debt now passed $37 trillion. Dollars doesn't matter anymore, not because it was paid back, not because taxes went up, but because it was quietly engineered out of the system, replaced by something entirely new, a reset, disguised as innovation, a transformation sold as modernization, and all of it hidden behind the rise of crypto, the resurgence of gold, and the creation of a financial structure unlike anything America has used before. To understand how this happens, you have to understand one uncomfortable truth. The United States can't pay off its debt, not mathematically, not politically, not realistically. At $37 trillion, the interest alone is devouring the federal budget. By 2030, if nothing changes, the U.S. will spend more on interest payments than on defense, healthcare, or Social Security when a debt gets too big to pay. History shows there are only three options: default, inflate it away, or rewrite the rules entirely. And default is not an option for the world's reserve currency. So quietly, strategically, the U.S. has been building the pieces of something else, a soft reset, a way to transform the current financial system without alarming the global markets, without crashing the dollar, and without regular people understanding what's happening until it's finished. The first clue is gold. After decades of barely paying attention to precious metals, the U.S. has suddenly begun stacking gold again quietly, without fanfare. Central banks around the world are doing the same. China, Russia, India, Turkey, Poland. Even smaller nations are adding to their reserves at the fastest pace in half a century. Gold is the asset of last resort, the foundation you turn to when you know a monetary shift is coming. The U.S. doesn't need to announce anything. Markets understand. When central banks buy gold, they're preparing for something. The second clue is crypto. But not the crypto you're thinking of. Not Bitcoin. Not Ethereum. Not meme coins. The real play is the rise of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Digital dollars issued directly by the Federal Reserve. A programmable, trackable, controllable form of money. The U.S. isn't building a crypto for fun. It's building a crypto because the existing dollar system is becoming impossible to maintain. Imagine a digital dollar that never physically exists, can be created instantly, can have interest rates applied to it individually, can expire, can be taxed automatically, and can be distributed directly to citizens without banks. A dollar the government controls completely. That dollar isn't just money, it's a reset button. So how does crypto erase $37 trillion in debt? It starts with a transition, slowly. The government shifts from the old dollar, the one created through borrowing, to a new digital version of the dollar, created by the Federal Reserve without adding to the national debt. The current system requires the government to issue bonds every time new money enters the economy. The new system, doesn't a digital dollar bypasses the treasury market entirely? That alone breaks the mechanism that creates national debt. But the real trick is what happens next. Over time, the new digital currency begins replacing the old one. The government issues incentives for people to use it. Stimulus payments, discounts, tax benefits. Even mandatory adoption for federal programs as more of the economy moves to the digital dollar. The old dollar becomes less important, less used, less relevant. The government doesn't have to pay off. The $37 trillion sit can allow the old debt to fade in significance as the system grows around it. Then comes inflation, not the painful inflation we see at the grocery store, but a controlled, engineered inflation built into the transition. By expanding the supply of the new digital currency while letting the value of old dollar obligations dilute, the real cost of the national debt shrinks. You're still technically owed money, but the purchasing power of what you re-owed drops slowly, quietly, invisibly. This is how governments throughout history have erased impossible debts. Rome, France, the British Empire, not by paying them back, but by letting inflation turn them into a manageable footnote. But there's one more piece. Gold. Gold acts as the anchor, the signal that the new system has value. The U.S. doesn't need a full gold standard, just enough gold backing to stabilize confidence during the transition. Think of it like a hybrid system. Digital currency supported indirectly by the strength of America's gold reserves. As the digital dollar becomes mainstream, gold becomes the reassurance that the new system is legitimate, secure, and globally accepted. It's the same playbook used in the 1940s, when the U.S. built Bretton Woods. Digital money backed by the trust in American assets. So, picture the sequence. A new digital dollar, launched by the Federal Reserve. A slow migration away from the debt-based dollar. A controlled inflation that reduces the real value of the $37 trillion owed. And gold providing stability during the transition. Nothing is announced as a reset. That would cause panic, crash markets, and destroy confidence. Instead, it's sold as modernization, as innovation, as a necessary upgrade for a digital economy. Most people will never connect the dots. They won't realize that the shift to digital currency made the old debt nearly irrelevant. They won't realize that inflation quietly shrank the real burden of what America owed. They won't notice that a new financial system replaced the old one without a single headline calling it a reset. And here's the twist. This strategy only works if the public stays distracted, if they argue about politics, not monetary engineering, if they watch inflation rise but never understand why, if they adopt digital currency because it's convenient, not because it's part of a multi-trillion-dollar restructuring. The end result? The United States with the same buildings, the same banks, the same economy, but an entirely new monetary foundation. A foundation where the old $37 trillion debt becomes a relic of a past system. A foundation where money is programmable, inflation is a policy tool, and gold is the quiet guarantor in the background. Some people will call it genius, others will call it manipulation. But one thing is certain. Financial resets don't happen with explosions. They happen quietly, gradually, seamlessly. And by the time the public realizes what happened, the new system is already in place.